The cafeteria of the great alien ship was always loud. Voices in many different languages filled the air. Metallic trays clattered against the long tables. Strange smells of alien food mixed together. Strong spices from one world, bitter smoke from another. Bright white lights hummed above and the walls shone with cold steel. In the middle of this noise sat a human girl. She was small compared to the creatures around her, her shoulders straight, her dark hair falling neatly to her chin. She wore the simple white uniform given to all recruits, but on her it looked almost too clean, too pure against the rough and colorful skins of the others. The aliens noticed her silence. They always did. She never joined their talk, never argued, never laughed. Her eyes stayed low, focused on her plate. She moved slowly, eating as if she had all the time in the galaxy. Some found this strange. Some found it funny. And some, the cruel ones, thought it was weakness. At the far end of the room, one such alien stood up. He was taller than most, with rough green scales running across his arms and jaw. His eyes glowed faintly yellow, and his mouth stretched into a sharp grin that showed rows of teeth. He had watched the girl for days. He hated her calm face. It made him feel ignored, as if his kind did not matter to her. Now he wanted to test her. The other aliens saw him moving and whispered among themselves. Some chuckled. They knew he was about to cause trouble, and in their eyes, the quiet human would finally be broken. The girl did not move. She kept eating, a spoon rising and falling like a slow rhythm, as steady as her breathing. The green-scaled alien stopped behind her chair. His shadow covered her small frame. He leaned down, his sharp teeth close to her ear. "Look at you," he hissed. "Always so quiet. Do you think you are better than us? Or are you just too afraid to speak?" The girl did not answer. She did not even pause. Her spoon touched the plate, scooped again, lifted again. Her calm face never changed. A ripple of laughter spread through the room. The aliens at nearby tables grinned, some pounding their fists on the table for fun. They wanted a show. The bully placed one clawed hand on her shoulder, pressing down, testing her. His other hand reached for her tray and pushed it slightly forward. Her spoon scraped against the edge and slipped from her fingers, clattering onto the table. For the first time, the girl stopped moving. The bully's grin widened. He straightened his back, enjoying the attention. "There it is," he said loudly. "The little human finally loses her calm. Maybe now she will cry. Maybe now she will beg." The cafeteria filled with laughter. Dozens of alien eyes stared at the girl, but she did not cry. She did not beg. She reached for her spoon, lifted it, placed it back on her tray, and began eating again as if nothing had happened. The room went quiet for a moment. Some aliens frowned. Others tilted their heads. They had expected tears or fear. Instead, they saw the same silence as before, stronger now, sharper now. The bully's grin faltered, but only for a second. He forced a laugh and slapped her shoulder with his hand. "You think silence will save you, human? You are nothing here. Nothing but a fragile little creature sitting among predators." Still, the girl did not speak. The bully's voice grew louder, filled with anger. "Do you not understand? This is not your world. You do not belong here." The girl lifted her head at last. Her dark eyes met his glowing yellow ones. Her face was calm, her mouth closed, her gaze steady. For a heartbeat, the bully felt something he could not name, a strange weight pressing into him from her silent stare. He shook it off, growling deep in his chest. "I will break you," he muttered. The aliens around the room leaned forward, waiting. They could feel something strange in the air now. The silence of the girl was no longer just silence. It was heavy, almost dangerous. The bully leaned closer, his breath hot against her hair. "Say something," he demanded. She did not, her eyes lowered back to her food. She took another slow bite, the room filled with whispers. Some aliens laughed again, but softer now, uncertain. Others exchanged uneasy glances. One alien with grey skin muttered under his breath, "She is from a Deathworld. Do not forget that." Another shook his head. "She's too small. Look at her. She is no threat." But the first alien did not answer. He kept his eyes on the girl. He knew the stories. Deathworld humans were not like other creatures. Their home was filled with dangers that would kill most species in seconds. Only the strongest survived there, and those who survived learned patience, silence, and power. The green-scaled bully did not care about such stories. He wanted to prove himself in front of the others. He wanted to crush her calmness, so he pressed harder, his claws digging into her shoulder. "You cannot ignore me forever, human," he snarled. "I will make you speak." Still she sat. Still, she stayed quiet, and the silence grew heavier. The other aliens could feel it now. Something was wrong, something they could not explain. It was in the air, in the girl's stillness, in the way she moved so calmly even under threat. The bully could not feel it, or maybe he refused to. He only saw prey refusing to bow. He leaned closer and laughed, but the sound was forced, too loud. "Stay silent, then. Soon silence will not protect you." The girl placed her spoon down slowly. She folded her hands on the table and looked ahead, her face empty, her voice still missing. The cafeteria watched in complete silence now. No one knew it yet, but the storm was waiting, and the bully had already stepped too close. The cafeteria of the alien ship did not calm down. The silence of the human girl only made things stranger. Many aliens still stared, waiting for her to react, waiting for the storm that never came. The bully, the tall, green-scaled creature, paced slowly behind her chair. His claws tapped the backrest, sharp and deliberate. He was not used to being ignored. Every other creature on the ship lowered their head when he spoke. Every other creature obeyed his threats. But this one, this quiet little human, gave him nothing. It burned his pride. "Look at her," he called out, his voice loud enough to echo across the steel walls. "She sits like a stone. Maybe she is broken inside. Maybe Deathworld humans are not warriors after all, only weak shells with empty faces." The laughter rose again, but weaker this time. Some joined in, eager to support the bully. Others hesitated, their eyes still locked on the girl who ate in silence. The girl lifted her glass of water, drank slowly, and placed it back on the tray. Not a word, not even a twitch of anger. This angered the bully more than insults would have. He slammed his fist onto the table. The metal rang and the plates rattled. A piece of her bread slid across the tray, but she simply reached out, pulled it back and continued eating. The bully leaned down, his teeth flashing near her face. "Do you hear me, human? Do you understand me? Or are you too simple to know when you are being mocked?" She raised her eyes for a second, her gaze steady and cold. Then she lowered them again. That one look made his skin crawl, but he would not stop now. Not when the room was watching. Not when his pride demanded he crush her silence. He grabbed her cup, lifted it high, and poured the water over her plate. The clear liquid soaked into her bread and mixed with her food. Gasps and chuckles spread through the crowd. "Now eat that," the bully sneered. "Show us how tough you are when even your food is ruined." The girl did not flinch. She took her spoon, scooped from the wet mess, and ate it without a single change of expression. The laughter died quickly. The room went quiet again. Something about her calmness was no longer funny. It was unsettling. The bully stepped back for a moment, his grin faltering. He looked around the room, trying to draw support from the others. "See, she's not brave. She is broken. She eats filth like an animal," but his words sounded weaker now. Even those who laughed before stayed quiet, because deep down they all felt it too. The silence of the Deathworld girl was not weakness. It was warning. A blue-skinned alien at the far table whispered to his friend, "I heard stories of her kind. On her planet, even the ground tries to kill you. The air is poison. The beasts are endless. Only those who learn to endure survive." His friend shook his head nervously. "Then why is she here? Why send such a creature among us?" No one had an answer. The bully snarled, trying to take back control. He placed both hands on the girl's shoulders and squeezed, his claws pressing into her uniform. "Stand up," he ordered. "Stand and face me, or admit you are nothing." She stayed seated. Her hands rested calmly on the table. Her eyes did not lift. It was as if she did not even hear him. A shiver went through the room. The bully leaned closer, his voice low and sharp. "Do you want me to drag you out of this seat? Is that what you want?" The girl finally stopped eating. Slowly, she set her spoon down. The sound of metal touching the tray echoed in the silent hall. Every alien froze. Her head turned just slightly until her dark eyes met his again. There was no fear in them, no anger, only a cold emptiness that made his throat tighten. For a moment he felt small, but pride forced him forward. He slapped the table again, harder this time, making the cups jump. "You think silence protects you? I will make you scream." The cafeteria watched with wide eyes. The silence from the others was louder than any cheer. The girl looked back at her food, picked up her spoon, and ate again as if nothing had happened. The bully's jaw tightened. His claws dug deeper into her shoulders, but she did not move. He pulled his hands back at last, breathing heavy. Something in her stillness unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. Behind him, whispers grew stronger. "She is dangerous. She is not reacting because she does not need to. She is waiting," the bully growled, spinning toward the crowd. "She is nothing," he shouted. "I will prove it," but the words shook, as if he was trying to convince himself. The girl ate the last bite on her tray, wiped her mouth with the corner of her sleeve, and placed her hands neatly on the table. The silence grew deeper, the room felt heavier, and though no one could explain why, many aliens felt the same thought crawl into their minds. It would have been better if the bully had left her alone. The cafeteria was not the same place it had been minutes ago. The air felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. The laughter was gone. The whispers had thinned. Even the smell of food seemed to fade under the weight of silence. At the center of it all sat the human girl. Her plate was empty now. Her hands were folded neatly on the table. She looked forward, still and calm, as if she were sitting alone in the room, but she was not alone. The bully stood just behind her, his chest rising and falling, his sharp teeth bared in frustration. His claws tapped against the table edge. Each tap echoed too loudly in the silence. He had pushed her again and again, yet she had given him nothing. No anger, no fear, no weakness, only silence, and that silence now felt like a wall he could not break. The other aliens could see it. They shifted in their seats, glancing nervously between the girl and the bully. Some no longer wanted to watch, but they could not look away either. Something was about to happen. Everyone felt it, though no one could name it. The bully leaned close again, his shadow stretching over her small frame. His voice came out low, almost trembling, though he hid it with a growl. "You think you are strong because you ignore me? You think silence makes you powerful? No, little human, it makes you weak. It makes you nothing." Still, she did not answer. Her calmness cut deeper than any insult. He snarled and reached for her tray, throwing it onto the floor. The metal crashed, the sound sharp against the walls. Her empty cup rolled across the ground and stopped near another table. Every eye in the cafeteria followed it, then snapped back to the girl. She still did not move. That made the bully even more furious. His pride could no longer bear it. He had mocked her, touched her, ruined her food. Nothing worked. He needed more. He needed to prove to everyone that she was no different from prey. He grabbed her chair and shoved it forward. The metal legs screeched across the floor. Her body rocked with the motion, but she did not fall. She placed one hand on the table to steady herself and then folded it back again. Her breathing stayed calm. Her face stayed calm. The bully's chest burned with anger. "Stand up!" he shouted, his voice breaking the silence like a blade. "Stand and face me." She did not. Her body remained still, her eyes forward, and then for the first time she spoke. Her voice was quiet, so quiet that many in the room almost missed it. But it carried a weight that froze them where they sat. "Do not touch me again." 4 words. Nothing more. But those 4 words struck the bully harder than any blow. For a moment he hesitated. Something in her tone chilled his spine. It was not a shout, not a plea. It was a warning, a true warning, the kind that meant the next step would be his last. The silence after her words was even heavier. The cafeteria felt smaller, as if the walls had closed in. Some aliens shifted uncomfortably, their hands tightening around their trays. A few even looked at the door, as though considering leaving before something terrible happened. But the bully laughed. The sound was forced, harsh. "Finally," he growled. "Finally the little human speaks. But too late. You cannot threaten me." He slammed his hand onto her shoulder again, claws pressing deeper than before, and that was the final push. The girl's hands moved away from the table. Slowly, with calm precision, she placed them on her lap. She sat upright, her head lifting, her gaze rising until her dark eyes locked with his. This time, her stare was not empty. It was sharp, cold, like the surface of ice just before it cracks. The bully's grin weakened, but his pride would not let him stop. "Do something," he spat. "If you are so dangerous, show us. Or sit there and prove you are nothing." The girl blinked once. Slowly, the sound of her chair scraping back echoed in the silence, though she had not even stood. She shifted only slightly, adjusting herself. Her hand rose, small, pale against his green scales, and she placed it on his wrist. It was the lightest touch, gentle, almost harmless, but every alien watching felt their hearts pound faster. The bully sneered, not understanding. He tried to pull his hand back, but her grip tightened, and in that instant the cafeteria knew something had changed, something had broken. The bully felt it too. Her fingers were small, but her strength was not. He pulled harder, but her hand held firm. She looked up at him one last time, her eyes calm, her voice silent, and then everything would change forever. The cafeteria was frozen. No tray moved, no spoon clattered, no voice dared to whisper. Every alien eye was locked on the human girl and the green-scaled bully who towered above her. Her small hand gripped his wrist. It looked harmless, like a child holding onto the arm of a giant. But the way he tried to pull back and failed sent a shock through the crowd. The bully's grin twitched. His yellow eyes narrowed. "Let go," he growled. She did not. Her calm face did not change. Her grip did not loosen. He snarled, trying again. Muscles rippled under his scales, his arms straining. Still, he could not break free. A growl rose in his throat, turning into a shout. "Let go of me." The girl's other hand rose. She moved with a slow grace, almost gentle. She placed it higher up his forearm, and then she pressed. The sound was soft at first, almost like the crack of a small branch in the forest. But it echoed across the silent room like thunder. The bully's face twisted in shock. His knees buckled. His body bent forward. Another crack followed. Louder, sharper gasps filled the cafeteria. Some aliens covered their mouths. Others pushed back from the tables, chairs screeching against the floor. The bully tried to roar, but his voice broke into a choked cry. His free hand shot forward, clawed fingers aiming for her face, but he never reached her. Her hand shot upward, moving faster than any of them could see. She caught his wrist mid-swing, her fingers wrapping around it with terrifying ease. The room went dead still again. Her eyes lifted, cold and empty. She looked into his face as if staring through him, and with one calm motion she twisted. The snap was loud. Too loud, his neck bent at an impossible angle. His body stiffened, then collapsed like a falling tree. The heavy thud of his corpse shook the floor. The girl let go of his arm. It dropped lifelessly to his side. She adjusted her chair, sliding it back into place, and sat upright again. Her breathing never changed. Her face never shifted. She picked up her spoon from the table and returned to eating. The cafeteria was silent. Completely silent. Dozens of alien eyes stared, wide with horror. Some could not breathe. Some tried to swallow, but their throats were dry. One alien whispered, his voice barely audible. She killed him without standing up. The words spread through the room like fire. She never even stood. She never raised her voice. She just snapped him like nothing. The sound of their whispers only made the silence heavier. At the far corner, a young alien shook his head, trembling. That was no fight. That was not even a struggle. She ended him as if he were a toy. Another leaned forward, whispering with fear. This is what Deathworlders are. Monsters in human skin. The girl did not look at them. She did not acknowledge their fear. She simply ate, bite after bite, as if nothing had happened. The corpse lay beside her chair, lifeless eyes staring up at the ceiling. One alien finally stood. His chair screeched behind him. "We should report this," he muttered. But his voice shook, and he did not move toward the door, because everyone knew the truth. Reporting her meant drawing her attention, and no one wanted that. The silence dragged on, broken only by the sound of her spoon tapping the metal tray. Every small noise made the aliens flinch. Her calmness was worse than violence. It was colder, more terrifying, because she did not seem proud. She did not seem angry. She did not even seem aware of the body at her feet. She had acted because she chose to. And now she had returned to silence. Finally, she placed her spoon down, finished her last bite, and lifted her glass. She drank slowly, placed it back on the tray, and wiped her lips with the corner of her sleeve. Her eyes lifted once, sweeping the room. No one dared to meet her gaze. Heads lowered, shoulders hunched. Even those who had laughed the loudest minutes ago stared at the floor now, afraid she might choose them next. She stood at last. Her chair slid back with a whisper. She lifted her tray, walked to the disposal chute, and placed it inside. Her steps were soft, but every ear followed them. The doors opened with a hiss, and she walked out. The moment the doors closed behind her, the cafeteria erupted in whispers. What is she? She is Deathworld human. That is what they are. She killed him like nothing, and she will do it again if she wants to. But deep down, none of them needed answers. They already knew. One truth had been written in the sound of that single snap. Deathworld humans were not prey. They were predators. And now, every alien in that room would remember it for the rest of their lives. The cafeteria did not return to normal. Even after the human girl left, silence stayed heavy in the room. The body of the bully still lay on the floor, his lifeless eyes staring upward, neck bent in the wrong direction. No one touched him. No one dared to move him. The laughter from earlier felt like a memory from another world. The air was thick, cold, filled with something invisible but sharp. Every alien sitting at the tables carried the same thought in their minds. Fear. The human girl had not shouted. She had not stood. She had not shown anger. She had only spoken once, 4 words, a warning. And then she acted. It was not a fight. It was not even resistance. It was a statement, a reminder. Deathworld humans did not survive by chance. They survived because they were predators in a galaxy that thought them prey. At the far corner, 2 aliens whispered to each other, their voices trembling. She killed him without effort. She never even changed her face. Others nodded, eyes wide, bodies stiff. None of them dared to raise their voice. The door hissed open, and a group of ship officers stepped inside. They saw the body on the ground and froze. The officers exchanged glances, then looked at the crowd. No one spoke, no one pointed at the girl, because even in her absence, her silence was still in the room. Finally, one officer asked, "Who did this?" The question hung in the air like smoke. No one answered. Not one alien dared to say her name. The officers looked around, waiting. But the silence stretched, heavy and unbroken. In the end, the officers carried the body away, muttering among themselves. The doors closed behind them. The cafeteria stayed quiet. For the rest of that cycle, no one touched the seat where the girl had been. Her untouched space stood like a shadow at the center of the room. Plates were taken, food was eaten, but no one dared sit near it. When she returned the next day, carrying her tray as calmly as before, the entire cafeteria shifted. The chatter died at once. Dozens of eyes lowered. Dozens of shoulders hunched. The space around her was clear, though the tables were full. She sat down alone, just as she had before. This time no one mocked her. No one laughed. No one even dared to breathe too loudly near her. The silence she once carried alone now stretched across the room. She ate slowly, spoon rising and falling in the same rhythm. Calm, steady, unshaken. The aliens watched her in silence, pretending not to, stealing quick glances when they thought she would not notice. Every now and then, her eyes would rise, scanning the room. When that happened, heads lowered immediately, as if the weight of her gaze pressed them down. The bully's death had already turned into whispers across the ship. By night, the story had spread beyond the cafeteria. By morning, it had reached the crew quarters. By the next cycle, it had reached the command deck, and the story kept growing. Some said she had broken his neck with one finger. Some said she had killed him with her eyes. Some said she had whispered a word, and his body had obeyed. The truth did not matter anymore. What mattered was the fear. What mattered was the silence. The captain of the ship heard the stories too. He sat in his private chamber, listening to his officers argue. Some wanted her removed from the crew. Some wanted her locked away. Others said it would be suicide to try. The captain stayed silent for a long time. Then he finally spoke. "She is Deathworld human," he said. "This is what they are. If she chooses to stay quiet, we will let her stay quiet. And if she chooses otherwise..." He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. Every officer in the room already understood. On the cafeteria floor, the girl continued her meal. She did not look at anyone. She did not speak. She did not move with pride or with shame. She simply existed, and that was enough. The aliens who once mocked her now moved carefully, their voices low, their laughter gone. The sound of spoons and cups was softer than ever, as though the entire room feared to disturb her silence. She finished her food, placed her tray away, and walked out with the same soft steps, and once again the silence exploded into whispers. She is dangerous. She is untouchable. She is not prey. The lesson was carved into their minds like stone. The Deathworld girl had ignored the bully, ignored the insults, ignored the mockery. She had sat quietly, calm as ice. And when the time came, she had snapped his neck without even standing up. No one would ever forget that. No one would ever test her again. And in the echo of her silence, every alien learned a truth they had tried to deny. Deathworld humans did not rise to fear. They rose to end it.